Now I can't use naughty words for about 30 minutes, is my theory. They lifted that thing on regular videos. Regular YouTube videos used to not be able to like utter naughty language words in the very beginning of a YouTube video. That's lifted. They said they don't do anything about that anymore. I have a feeling it's still like murmurs of that system are still in the AI, because Google really can't just affect things that sweepingly over their platform, because they trust everything to work with algorithm and AI and this and that and the other things. So I don't know. If they rip out that system, I don't know if it's totally gone. This is what we're listening to on Twitch. If you're curious, it's the Deckard Ripecast, Volume 4, my definition of chill. So credit where it's due. All right, so we are live on YouTube. That means I need to go to my chat thingy, and I need to expunge all of this stuff, because the YouTube chat room is different every time. And that's why I don't have all that much interaction with YouTube chat. Now, if I used Social Stream Ninja, maybe I could get something that uses the Social Stream Ninja's like local broadcast of chat, because you can do that across multiple machines with Social Stream Ninja. It'll get your chats from all your different streams, and it'll put them on multiple different machines using the like an intranet site. And so if I could get Node-RED to use that, maybe then we could get both chats doing commands and stuff. I think that's maybe one of the avenues that I can go to, because YouTube wants you to use like an API like coin. You get like a certain number of coins or whatever that you spend on your API calls. I don't want to deal with that with chat in case chat goes crazy. So I think there's two things. One is a YouTube NPM chat thing on that I've got it open on a tab on my other computer, and I need to kind of explore that, and I think that might get it directly into Node-RED without using the API, or I do it through Social Stream Ninja, which means that everybody gets whatever happens on this. The other thing that I need to do, and I haven't been able to do it, rate limited API calls. Isn't that wonderful? The other way is to what was I saying? Oh, the other thing I need to do is actually get our emotes working in Social Stream Ninja, and I think maybe I just need to update it. There's so many of these little chores. I'm dying here under the weight of all these chores. You get your stream working, and it's kind of a house of cards, and you don't ever want to do anything to upset it. But I'm at a point right now where I think it might be useful for me to literally take everything out of this room and slowly repopulate the room with my stuff, because things are just, they need to be discombobulated and then recombobulated. I need to like move. There's a certain point. Put random words in so people can search for Arduino or bother. Yeah, that's true. I could do that. Yeah, the whole Tetris time. But if you don't put everything up in the air, you can't catch all the tissues falling. Too many desks in the living room. Yeah. Yeah, Milwaukee has a sign in their airport where after security you go to the recombobulation area, which is cute. What's up, Lines and Squares? How's it going? Molecular diagnostics. Okay, I think I am actually caught up on chat. I need to make a network of type 1 diabetes streamers. I don't think they all want to be known as type 1 diabetes streamers. Some of them don't include the information, but there's 3 that I know that I could potentially get in contact with. So this is the status of the pick and place machine. Oh, great. Just slap everything off of my desk. This thing has a mind of its own. So this is the... Stop swinging back and forth. Stop swinging your thing. Jeez, what do you... Okay. You're just showing off. It's actually this hand doing this that's swinging it. The Type 1 Council. You have angered the Council of Diabetics. Or we're just grumpy because we're hyperglycemic. So this is essentially what the arm has to do. It just has to stay parallel as I move this around, and when I put pressure on it, it needs to stay in place. So I need to figure out the rest of this thing. I did all the 3D printing, and These work brilliantly. If not, there's you know, the only criticism that I would levy against this is that this takes up a little bit of my swing room. It does fall into the trough, but it kind of gets in the way. You can't see shit. I'm using black plastic for everything, and it's like, I should have used my engineering gray. But yeah, this I need to somehow attach to the slide. Yes, it is indeed a textbook reciprocating dingle arm. And its purpose is just simply to hold up the thing that drops and picks up parts and stuff. It doesn't wiggle too much. I can solve that. That's a solvable problem. But it needs to be light. I mean, it needs to feel like nothing. Like nothing at all, nothing at all. It needs to feel like nothing, and I think I've succeeded in making it feel like nothing. I don't need to capture these bearings any more than they already are. The clearances are okay. Design-wise, I probably should put a little lip there, but it doesn't, you kind of don't notice, but there is a little bit of a lip that I could deal with, but I'm not gonna do that. We'll figure out how to attach this to the thing that has the wrist rest on it, and then that manipulates whatever dingle arm end I come up with. This will have to be shorter, probably like to here, and then something gets mounted here that will very lightly lower when you push down on it and spin the tip when you spin the handle. So I'm gonna use probably some of the 3D printer stuff in order to make the thing that spinny-majigs it. I'll use a syringe, and then we'll play with pressure at some, pressurized air at some point in order to make something that picks stuff up, and then I need to put the other dispenser next to that. And it turns out the dispenser is more mechanism than just picking stuff up. Picking stuff up, you just have an input pressure, a needle valve, and then a venturi vent, and the needle valve will control how aggressive the venturi is so that it can barely pick up the parts and you're not wasting all of your shop air. Barely picks up the parts, you move over to the thing, and then you drop it again and turn off the solenoid. Easy. With the dispenser, this needs to pressurize this piece here, which gives you a nice even delivery of material, but it would be pointless if you can't turn it off. Because if you turn off the solenoid, it'll stop supplying pressure, but it'll still be enough pressure for this whole thing to empty out. So what you do is you then apply vacuum to this. And I don't know what, according to the diagram that we have of the pressure system of the thing we're copying, apparently vacuum's just always on, or maybe that solenoid pressurizes itself after a time. I want to try to cut down the number of solenoids, so I think what I'm going to try to do, well, we'll see what is possible. Because it seems like we could just plug the venturi, and then that would provide pressure, and then we open the venturi, and that would supply vacuum. So it would just be two solenoids, system on, vacuum the venturi, close. So the operation would be one turns on, supplies pressure, the other turns on, vacuum, both turn off. Yeah, it's gonna need solenoid valves and needle valves and stuff. The needle valves may come from cheapo airbrush kits. The cheapo airbrush fittings kit, I think, has everything I'll need, including something so that that can spin. The tip can spin with the vacuum line going into it. I love how it's a CRT television on this thing. How old is this? Well, there's a CRT television on the one with the camera. But yeah, we've got this whole valve thing, and the problem with this valve thing is that I don't have the fittings. I don't have a lot of fittings. I have some airline stuff, and we can maybe mess around with it at some point. But what's going to happen if I do a stream of this? If I do a stream of this, oh, and that's this PDF if anybody's interested. If I do a stream of messing with, because I was going to do that. I was going to do like a vacuum line fitting where we test everything out. Problem is, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm not going to have a particular fitting, right? I'm just not going to have it. I don't have tons of fittings kits. I don't do a lot with air. I have a couple air cylinders in the back, but yeah, I just don't do enough with that kind of stuff. And so immediately at the start of stream, I'll be like, well, I don't have that fitting. We can't move on. Uo's lab is extremely good at moving on and coming up with a solution. And that is a skill. That is quite an important skill that he has. I need to cultivate that sometimes and work with it a little bit. But the last time I tried that, you know, we made that, we messed up the impeller for this thing pretty severely. All right, so yeah, that's the reciprocating dingle arm. I bought these. These will be good to have in a bunch of different bins and places and stuff. In fact, the first thing that I'm going to do The price of eggs has collapsed. Sell all of your eggs. Oh, we've got an. I'm not gonna make egg puns. I am not the Batman villain, Eggman. That is actually a villain. It was in the 60s TV show. I'm gonna distribute these all over the shop so that I will never be without. But our egg financial planner is in chat. What's up, Squiddy Wins? I'll put these in the miscellaneous electronics testers and stuff. That desperately needs grid affinity. I really need to start printing grids because this whole business here desperately needs it. It would help me keep track of what's in there, and it would help me keep it from looking like a bird's nest. But anyway, these things I just bought, they were cheap. And what they are is just a simple PWM fan controller. So you've got VN and ground, and then you've got a PWM signal coming from, I think, probably an AT-Tiny 85. And while I could have built this with an AT-Tiny, it was so cheap, I just bought it. Oh, this is a really good song, actually. So yeah, this will be really cool to have. I don't know what that is. Why we have a diode or a regulator, a reference source, I don't know. All right, I need to use the bathroom. I don't know if I don't think 7805s come in that form factor, but you're right, it's probably a voltage regulator. I think these can go up to 36 volts, maybe. I don't know if I'd want to test that, but yeah, I guess, have you seen, I don't know, the LM1117s don't get that small, but then they push almost an amp. So the 7805 pushes quite a bit of current for it being that. I have seen voltage regulators that small though. That's probably what it is. The only thing it really could be. All right, so I'm gonna do, now do these overlays work? Some of these have needed a little fixing because they don't turn off. So that's on. That one does turn off. Okay, so we're gonna put up BRB. Do I have pee pee poo poo in here? I do. Where's pee pee poo poo? People, beep. Oh, there he is. Pee pee poo 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 poo. Watching electronics stream and electrocuting myself simultaneously, says Peluser. Well, that sounds like a plan. You know, the electronics forums don't even give advice about AC, so I shouldn't encourage anybody to electrocute themselves. All right, I'm gonna be right back. I promise. I promise you, I'll be right back. Please don't worry about me. I'll return to you. I accidentally toggled it weird. Okay, let's get the music out of here. How do I do that? How do I operate my own stream? Okay, that faded out very quickly. I need something to automate that. How's it going, everybody? 10's machine to make it where I can actually sit without my back killing me. Oh, you need one of those therapeutic... Oh, geez, hiccups, man. I'll tell you what. Yeah, hiccups are killing me. I don't know where they... In the afternoon, they just come from me having like a tiny little lunch before streaming. But anyway, what are we working on today? Well, this is a couple things that I've been kind of meaning to get to for quite some time and not really even talking about. The crimes and ornamentation did not benefit from Julian sweeping through the shop to have his own one. He said, hey, bother, why don't you spend a lot of your time and effort to make me a module for pennies on the dollar because you've got all these parts for stuff like that. And I said, okie dokie. And then I built him this whole module, which was probably $75 worth of parts, and didn't charge him a damn thing for it, just because it was content. Anyway, yeah, I'm bad at the business side of things here. My crimes and ornamentation, unfortunately, suffered pretty big for that. The $16 microcontroller, sorry, the $16 D to A is gone. Because I ordered the wrong one. I ordered the wrong one for Julian because the D to A has 5 different versions of similar chips that are pin compatible or just functionally compatible. And the ones I bought were functionally compatible, not pin compatible. My life. Anyway, I bought the one that's functionally compatible at great expense, and the DigiKey bin for it is right over there. So let's get that mofo into our crimes and ornamentation, and then I want to upgrade the processor. In the process of the pandemic, making certain chips extremely rare and expensive. Paul Stoffrigan from the Teensy fame decided to change the main processor in the next version of the Teensy. Crimes and ornamentation used the SPI bus of the Teensy 3.0 or 3. The decimal scheme also changed with the new version, so it's confusing which one you're actually buying versus, you know, this and that and the other thing. Anyway, the Teensy 4 handles SPI bus a little differently, and they used some like deep microcontroller tricks. You're not supposed to do that when you're programming something like this. You could make crimes and ornamentation use the Teensy 3.2 to its fruition without using weird microcontroller tricks, because what happens when you do that is that Freescale Semiconductor decides, hey, we're not going to make that chip anymore because it sucks, and we've got a better one because we're awesome. And then they release the better chip, and you're like, oh, well, now all the software is completely different for the next version. So if you're making something that's as ubiquitous as crimes and ornamentation, using these little underlying saves you a little bit of processing power features it's bad. But apparently with the Teensy 4, crimes and ornamentation can do stuff a little better. It's a little snappier. It doesn't freeze. And apparently, since they've resolved all of that stuff software-wise, the more powerful microcontroller is beneficial to the operation of the unit. So I'm going to go ahead and put a Teensy 4 on this, and I got one right there. There it is. I found it. Sitting right in front of me. So we're just going to do a little bit of soldering and chill. And while we're doing soldering and chill, I never built up the second one of my Sallen key, technically a VCO, but it could probably do anything, because I want to build this one up. And instead of using the RP2040, the Raspberry Pi microcontroller Seed Studio Zhao, I want to use the ESP3264. I don't know what they're up to. The ESP, the really powerful ESPs that I bought for the dog collar project. I want to put one of them in this. And if I put one of them in this, that means this has Wi-Fi. And when a module has Wi-Fi, I can give it to chat, and then all hell can break loose. So I could give chat the ability to send commands into VCO, waveform, whatever I want. Am I going to do that with Node-RED? Probably. That means that if I take this to Julian's house, I can't use it. It won't do it. So the switch on the front will probably be like enable and disable chat is probably what the switch is going to do on the front of this thing. But then, you know, we've got 3 knobs and one switch that we can do whatever we want with. And so I can make this module sing. I can make it do cool stuff. So I want to build one of these up, and then we can kind of start the process of giving chat their own little lever to pull in my modular synthesizer. I think that would be a lot of fun. Bother, you could sell that. I probably could, but the problem is chat interactions here involve Node-RED. And so if I were to make a version of this that would go to another streamer, I would need to have the secret key file where they would put in the information about a bot that they create. It's a complicated thing to do. It's annoying to do. This would have to operate as its own bot, and then every 6 months its credentials would expire, and the streamer would have to go in and fix it. So that's tough. Unless I make it work with a different, more common chat interaction kind of system. I have to think about that. But anyway, that's what I want to work on today. I don't know how much or how little we're going to get through of that. Let me get my DigiKey box over here. Can I reach it? No, I'm going to move the sim setup. Oh, damn it. As usual, spill a whole bunch of stuff on my way. Hold on, I got to put paper towel down on that. It's not in an area with anything that will get ruined by moisture, but still have to do the due diligence. This is technically mopping the floors is what I'm doing right now. This is cleaning. This is a time of healing. Yeah, using seltzer on the floor to clean my floor. Experiment. If we take notes on this, it's technically science, right? Smells like a recurring revenue model. I would be so pissed if I had to send my Eurorack module back to the creator. And you know, it's like years later and they've moved on and I'm still sending this stupid thing back to get new credentials. No, thank you. All right, DigiKey package. Oh God, okay. I should have moved things properly to get over there. It's hard to get into my storage stuff right now because the sim setup is right there. So if I can clear some of this stuff off of my list of things that need to get done, then we can get to things like, you know, mounting the buttons and switches and the sim setup and stuff. Sell some to DJ Clancy. Oh, there's like notes and vaults and... Who's that a guy? Who's that a person? They raided the other day. Maybe actually it's probably still on this page because we get so few raids. Oh, let me look over here. Just look over at this tab. Doot. I don't know if Last Miles would use one. That would be kind of fun. Just send them to people who don't even like... I don't do anything with Eurorack. Why would you send me this? Where is it? Stream Streak. Cheered 2 bits. Julian is cutting in and out. Oh, it was 10,000 years ago. Okay, hold on. Where is that? I can actually just filter. Oh, I don't want to click that many things. Ugh. Okay, whoever it was that raided the other day, their channel's all about Eurorack. Or it's not all about it, but they do use it. It's Norse Herald. Not E to the 2 pi. Is it? E to the 2 pi? No, E to the 2 pi sounds a little bit more sciencey. It's not on this list. Are you kidding me? I thought that was the other day. It must have been like a month ago. DJ Clancy. I think that was it. Yeah. Sell a couple to them. I only have one. It would be kind of cool. The only problem is I also must be allergic to making money in order to stay on the health plan that I'm on. If I sell a bunch of the things and I do awesome and I make money, then I can get kicked off of the health plan and then not afford insulin. So fun times here in America until somebody fucking fixes things. All right, so we have our DACs, our very expensive little DACs. These are DAC 8565 ICP. Oh, ha ha ha, DigiKey. Ha ha ha. They think they're so cute. DAC 8565 ICUP. Yeah, okay. All right. Everybody's a joker. So we got to make sure that the second one of these definitely makes it into one of the bins, because I don't know what happened to the ones I had. I typically will order extra of things. And so, you know, you never order just one, just in case. But I wasn't able to locate this chip. And if it got thrown out, if it got into a pile that it wasn't supposed to, and then it got thrown out, I'm going to be just miffed. So maybe it's good that I never know the fate of the DAC 8565. Do. All right, so this needs to go into a blank bin. What do I have in here? Stuff that I've removed from other stuff. Yeah, those are all things that I removed from other stuff. Well, this is where this is going to go. And then we'll solder in the second one. And I don't have a pick and place to help me with this. Would be nice. Handling expensive chips. But we'll just get that in there. Okay. And then this is in a state, I think my vise will hold on to it though. Because we were working on this before, so there's some kind of an orientation that this thing is able to take up where I can work on it. Or not. or not. Maybe I was just clamping to the, yeah, maybe I'll just clamp the knobs and hopefully not scratch them. Do. How do people come up with melodies? That's something that's going to plague me while I mess with the 505. All right, so let's get the obsolete Teensy 3.0. That, I don't know what job that's going to get. We'll figure something for the Teensy 3 eventually. This thing was supposed to be dead. Like the comms were dead or something like that, but I put this into the ornamentation and crimes and it worked perfectly for a long time. So, I don't know. I don't know what I thought I killed. I usually do a little dead face on it, 2 little X-eyes, just to tell me that it's dead. Mysteriously, Paul Stoffrigan. Oh, is this square pins? Square pins. Okay, so we'll put square pins on the TC. Paul Stoffrigan, I keep referencing him, put a USB micro on the Teensy 4, which I think is a crime. That really should be a USB-C plug. Because sometimes when you plug these things in, if these haven't been soldered properly, and this one looks like it's okay, although I'm a little wary. Are those through hole? Okay, so they're through hole, but they're not actually soldered all the way through hole, which is a problem. So sometimes when you plug these things in the first time, there's a little bit of resistance on it. And by a little bit of resistance, I mean tons of resistance. And if these anchors are not soldered properly, and these look like they'll be able to take it, the solder really should flow all the way to the other side. I know that creates little bumps over here. Somebody fluxed all over your board. That was me. Yeah, I know. We need to clean that up. It's the circuit board just shows it particularly bad. But yeah, so sometimes when you plug into these, the solder on, if it's got like surface mount pads with no through hole stuff, then when you plug it in, all that force is just going to rip off the pads from the actual PCB substrate, and then it rips these traces that are the data lines coming from the cable. I've had it happen to me more than twice with these plugs, more than 4 times. But anyway, here's the NXP semiconductor, super duper up to 600 megahertz this thing can do, which I think I remember when I had a computer that was that fast. But now our microcontrollers are doing those speeds. It's crazy. Gigahertz microcontrollers for some reason. So let me get some square headers and we will chop the square headers. I don't think I have, yeah, it didn't come with headers at all. But I saved a couple dollars. Headers are over here. Oh, my arm still hurts from that one time that I partially dropped a screw bin and tried to catch it again. And I lurched my arm to try to grab it. And it like destroyed my arm for some reason. What's going on with YouTube? Okay, yeah, it's still there. But did it pull up in the chat thing? It did. Okay, so we got YouTube going. It's just nobody's there. Let's look at my analytics. 0 concurrent viewers. Oh, I had a viewer for a minute. What's up, Clarence Wiggleheimer? We're doing just easy stuff today. I'm just keeping it simple, KSS. Keep it simple. Oh, and I lost a bunch of viewers on Twitch too. Cool. All right, so I don't think I really need like super fancy headers. I think we could just use regular old square headers. Twitch is superior. I mean, Twitch tried to implement the features that YouTube has on their player that make it superior, but YouTube's player is really much better. All right. All right, I get it. Yeah, YouTube is a much better player. How many pins is this thing? Was I gonna get it right? Oh, I was gonna get it right just by feel. It is rainy out, so it's a perfect day to sit in here and solder stuff. YouTube can't do that. It's farts. Haven't you heard of the YouTube Rewind? The jokes, they write themselves. All right, these headers go over here. So, I mean, you know, soldering headers is one of the most exciting things that I could possibly do on stream, but it is something to do. And then we'll need to find the software, which is always an adventure. I was off by one. Dag nabbit. That's concerning. If I was off by one on this, but I did the right number of pins, did I actually get it right? I was off by one. That was me. That's on me. Electrophoresis. What is phoresis? Electrophoresis. That's right. It runs on electroscopy. Click things. Clicking weird stuff. Don't click weird stuff. Okay. So I think this still faces the same direction. Whatever transistor's going on over there, I guess we don't really need to install. It's basically what we did to Julian's. That doesn't even look like it's soldered properly. Moving molecules by electric current. Is that electroplating? Electro depositing? I don't know. Some of these do not look soldered properly, but this thing worked, so I guess it's fine. Wiggleheimer. Can't wait to lose the 3-stream streak again. You know, that's okay. I don't know if streaks were a good feature. The jury's out for me on the streaking. While I totally support streaking in general, the streaks on Twitch, I don't know if I support that because it's, I don't know, at a certain point, it's embarrassing. It's like, I had a screenshot here, and I probably should have put it up into OBS, but I had a Rabaz streak of like 130 watched streams, and I'm like, I don't want to share that. Like, I just don't. I don't want to share that. DNA and RNA analysis, is that what your assignment is on? That sounds kind of cool. Does that involve like microfluidics and stuff? Big solder for these pins. Big solder. I don't remember if I said this here or not, but I lost my 125 with Uwo while camping, and I felt like a weight has been lifted from my shoulders. That's a good one. Seriously, the Rabaz streak, I looked at it, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I like this. So basics of soldering, because we're doing kind of sort of basic stuff right now, it'd be good to get this done with. Multiple different ways that you can solder stuff, and generally when you see really, really neat and clean solder, it means a machine did it. If you see stuff that looks like this, that kind of makes you cringe a little bit, that means a human has built this thing. Now, the machine soldering is probably better. It definitely looks better. You can do sort of a stencil deposit of solder paste and then put all your parts down on the board and then expose them to soldering temperatures, and all of your stuff with surface mount stuff, all of your stuff will kind of rotate into place and be soldered. Now, if you do it with anything other than a stencil, if you use the paste dispenser with, you know, a measured amount of paste coming out, you don't quite get as clean of a look. You get kind of overloaded pads like we have here. Flux obviously helps the solder look a little better, and you want it to look like it is wet, like it's been like the solder is a liquid that is sort of flowed over everything. That's what you're looking for. If you see hard lines on it, then it might be cold soldered. Obviously, I did this by hand and I did this in a rush, so it looks like crap. And then I left all the flux on it, and so it looks even more like, you know, I took poops all over this thing. But if you're doing like really basic stuff like these pin headers, it helps to plug it into something else. And the something else that I have here is the actually original OC by Mix. But you can also plug them into a solderless breadboard, which is missing. Where did my... Okay, whatever. This is solderless breadboard. Solderless breadboard, and the example that I have is with a clear breadboard. This is not clear, so you can't see into this stuff. But solderless breadboard has a bunch of metal clips inside, and so those metal clips you're basically using as a heat sink. The reason you do that is because these headers are built by the lowest bidder. They're built to pinch every single margin of profit that can be gotten out of them, and it's a very, very small margin indeed. You buy a ton of these and then you go, man, those are more expensive than I thought. And then you never buy them for another like year because you treat them like they're free. They're made out of a plastic that melts under soldering temperatures. And these pin headers are just literally a square piece of metal that's shoved through a little plastic alignment substrate. So in order to keep these from melting and pointing in every direction, I plug them into something else that's going to act as a heat sink. Bread. Yeah. Streamer, I bet you know what an anode is. A+, C-. Anode is a positively charged thing. It can be a variety of thing, but the anode is positively charged while the cathode is negatively charged. So I remember the mantra A- or A+, C-. Was it A- C+? Uh-oh, I just lost it. Anode, AN negative? A to the K. Hold on, I'm looking it up again because I'm dumb. A to the mother K. All right. Of course I can tell you what an anode or cathode is. Significant developments have been made in the field of rechargeable batteries, sometimes referred to as secondary cells. And much of this work can be attributed to the development of electric vehicles. The work helped lead to 2019... Who fucking wrote this? I'm just looking for the definition, man. Where's the definition? And not listen to AI. Here's another one that's trying to explain the difference between the two. Anode versus cathode in batteries. God, the internet has become just useless, hasn't it? Good Lord. Okay, it is A- C+. Damn it! I got my own mnemonic backwards. It just happens. It just happens. Wait, but then this one's A+, C-. Oh my God. Anode A+. So I did get it right. I hate it when that happens, when you get the doubt in you and then you have to like reteach your brain what to do. Wait, what the fuck? Anode plus. Anode minus. What are you doing? What are you doing to us? Batteries are the opposite of semiconductors. Why have I found both? Yeah, this is the one that you should see in your head. I was just taught by association. Yeah, it's probably the way that I should have done it. The little mantra probably didn't help me at all. A to the K. So that's your plus to the minus, I guess. It's too late for me. I've already learned the thing, so I can't. Once you learn one, that's it. That's the way. Anyway, so when you're soldering something like a pin, what you're trying to do is heat up both what's called the via, which is the little hole in the board that is plated through with metal. So there's sort of like a, what you could consider to be a metal rivet in that hole, like right over here. Nah, no, maybe this one doesn't have it. One of these boards had a non-plated through hole that I could have used as an example, but what they do is they deposit, so you etch away the copper on the top of the board, and then you put back in the connections of these what are called vias. And sometimes the vias are covered by the solder mask, which is the one that I'm pointing to right there. It's very, very small. That one goes through the board to the other layer. This is only a 2-layer board. If you have something like a 4-layer board, what you see are orphaned vias. So you'll just see a via, and then there's just a little circle and nothing's going on around it, which that one almost looks like it is. I don't think this is a 4-layer board though. Maybe it is. That's how Stafford got all that stuff on it. But so anyway, when you're soldering, you want to make sure that both elements of this get hot enough for the solder to flow over it. And the way we do that is we simply apply the iron at an angle. Now, this thing is pretty tall on my vise, so I'm not really coming down at an angle. I'm almost going across to it. But what we do is we try to get a good surface area on both of those components while simultaneously adding solder from the other side, mainly because we have 2 hands. But when I do apply it, sometimes I cheat and I hit the iron with it a little bit, but then you hold the heat onto that pin, because as you add the solder, there's also a rosin core on this, and that rosin core is a flux that coats the entire pin. So when you're done soldering, you can clean the flux up, or you could be like me and, bitch, you live like this? Anyway, you have this coating of rosin flux, and that rosin flux is going to insulate that solder bond, but also the liquid metal is going to create a much better interface between your heater and the pin itself. Now, this iron's a little bit overkill for just doing pin headers, but whatever, we can get through it. So when I'm holding it there, what I'm allowing it to do is heat down through the via. If I desolder the header, we could look at it, and the pad, the part that's facing up on the other side, might not be coated with solder, because the solder didn't have a chance to wick down into everything. Sometimes on the larger through-hole things, you will see it suck down into the via, and we actually did see it a little bit here, where it looked like it was sort of overfilled, and then all of a sudden it sucked down in. That sometimes happens, sometimes it doesn't. It's hard to tell. Now, if you're holding it like this and you're not getting anything to melt, just that little tippy touch can be enough to get the rest of it to actually flow in. And so hold heat and then release. And you can see it looks just a little wet. You want that solder to look like it's flowing over both items as it coats the gold-plated pad. Now, the thing about tinning something, and that's called tinning, is when you deposit solder on top of something. Like this grid little thingy here is tinned. And what that does is that adds that solder to the overall mass of the metal. In this case, it's a giant heat sink, so I guess that'll help it cool a little bit better. I don't know if it'll make much of a difference. I think maybe like microscopically it will. So you're looking for it to look like it's flowed over. When you remove solder from a pin, you cannot untin it, because the solder has almost molecularly gotten in between things. Oh my God! Code rushed with a raid! All the lights came on at once. Code rushed! Thank you for raiding with a party of 5. I don't know if we have room at the table. I think you guys will have to sit at the kids' table. Now, welcome in. Everybody come on in. We're working on soldering basics, so I'm just kind of going over some common knowledge with soldering stuff as I replace my crimes and ornamentation module's main microcontroller. So this is like a $16 DAC and like a $40 microcontroller. This thing just eats money. What's going on over at Code Rushed? We're having a quiet, rainy day. That looks like total nonsense. What's going on there? I had to forage for some of these parts because Julian's module got nicer parts than this one. Huh, it's not really cleaning up, is it? We'll need to do a pass of alcohol on this thing. My squirt bottle, did that get back to where it needs to go? Yeah, it did. So I don't have my alcohol squirt bottle anymore. All right, let's get the rest of these soldered. So that's essentially it. The trick with pin headers is that you want to have a heat sink on it so that when you apply that heat for a particular amount of time, it does not melt the plastic and your pins end up facing every direction but where they should. Then, when soldering on a pin header to a board, you want to make sure to just hold the heat there for just a little bit and let your temperature-controlled soldering iron heat through the via and get that solder properly deposited. My squirt bottle has evaporated because I forgot the O-ring in the lid. Oh no. Yeah, but my alcohol squirter does not work as well. I need to get the pressure regulator and stuff. Literally all the parts for it are sitting right in front of me. I just haven't gotten around to doing it, to filling the damn thing. The thing was filled for like a year though. Those bottles are really good. Because just the other day we were squirting with it. We were squirting alcohol all over Julian's module. That doesn't sound right. I don't know if Julian's girlfriend would appreciate me talking about him like that. But we were just squirting and squirting. We were having a great time. I just dragged my iron on all that stuff. Oops. I can't believe I didn't have the right capacitors either. I had to forage for capacitors for the damn thing. The audio level stuff is weird. These people make these modules and they don't know the struggle of having a general electronics shop with a bunch of common parts, and then these guys make these modules and they go, I'm going to use just the right capacitor here. Let me find it in the catalog and order. No, don't do that. Look for the more common ones. Look for them on Amazon, and if it's not on Amazon, use something else. You know, if you've not worked with a variety of electronics before and you design something, you can end up having parts that are common to you and not like everybody else, because you're getting them all out of a catalog like DigiKey that has everything for everyone. You're making something that you expect other people to build. Do us a favor. Don't use a $16 DAC. Actually, this thing was designed before the advent of the TC4, but the TC4 has a bunch of audio tools, and so you can use I2C audio. I forget what the specific name of that is, but to run, I've got a 6-channel module that I'm turning into my module tester module, and that was done with much cheaper audio I2S things, and I think it still runs in 16 bits. Yeah, I2S. It's instead of integrated circuit communication, IIC, it's, I don't know. I2 sound. I don't make these acronyms, man. I just tried to use them improperly. All right, so that's the basics of soldering pin headers. Integrated circuits are a slightly different animal in surface mount, although I very much greatly appreciate how easy they are to work with in surface mount. You see I'm adding a little bit of flux here because I don't want to pull up any of these potentially fragile pads. I'm using the big iron with the big tip on it, and I would be using the big wedge tip if it didn't break randomly. It just stopped working on me, and now I can't find a replacement. I'm gonna have to look a little harder. There's probably eBay or something like that where they still sell them. I didn't expect my iron to become obsolete so quickly. But anyway, to remove solder from surface mount pads, solder braid is a very necessary tool. Once you find solder braid that works, you want to kind of keep with that brand, and mine is Chemtronics. This is not cheap. This stuff is pretty expensive when you order it. But it is the best way to remove all the solder from a surface mount pad. You can do it with suction. You can use the Engineer SSO3, I think is the one that they sell now, to remove all the solder from a pad. But if you've got solder braid, it'll do a much cheaper, a much cleaner job. So I've added flux, and now I am moving the solder braid with the tip of the hot iron. And it's important that it's a hot iron because you can see there, once I lifted it, it actually soldered the braid to the pad. That's really, really, really bad. Really bad. If you solder the braid to the pad and you pull on it, you can pull your pad off. And with the temperatures we're dealing with the giant iron tip, it can sometimes release the pad from the board. It'll just overheat it, and then the pad starts floating around. On cheaper boards, that's a very common thing and very annoying thing. So, good angle, get a lot of surface area on there, and then slowly move around with the thing and you can see it's just sucking up all that solder. So now we have completely flat pads to work with. Chemtronics is one of the best. Yeah, this has a little bit of flux stuff in it, which helps it work without squirting extra. I'm squirting extra because I desperately do not want to rid these pads of their mortal coil. Even the ones that are in there just as no connect pads. Those ones are notorious for coming up with the soldering iron. Bother, you say, is it time now to switch to a needle tip? No, it is not. And in fact, I would still be using this giant chunk if I could. I could try to solder it with these and it would be perfectly fine. Perfectly fine, although this one's starting to break. The dry sponge wears away at these. So these will eventually, like the whole tip will pop off of this and then I'll have to get another one. And that's why I liked this paste soldering station, because you could get the tips for pretty cheap and you can swap them out really fast. But we do not need to swap because we will be doing something called drag soldering in order to solder this. And that's not when you put on fancy flashy outfits and solder. Although it should be, because that would be awesome. But drag soldering is when you use the properties of the flux in the solder and the surface tension to drag a big blob of solder across all the pins, and that will perfectly solder each connection. So for that, we're going to need more flux, but first we are going to anchor one, maybe two of the pins. Anchor two of the pins on the opposite sides of the IC in order to hold it in place while we do this. Cheap stuff never wicked anything. Yeah, it's more frustrating to have bad stuff, but you can get a pen of Tachyflux, a syringe of Tachyflux, which I have, and I'm running out of. Oh, that's getting, well, we'll wait until I have like 2 cc's of it, and then I'll order another one. But yeah, the Tachyflux is a very nice tool to have in your repertoire, and that can get the cheap stuff working again. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, even the cheap flux. I don't know what flux that was in a previous life. That didn't add anything to anything. So I'm trying to add just a tiny amount of solder to this, but I'm having trouble actually aiming the giant tip. Okay, so we got a little bit of solder on that. I'm going to clean the tip so I don't put too much down. And now we need to actually get our chip. So in surface mount, what we'll do is we will put the chip down on the PCB and then we will slide it into place. And I usually give it a tap on top just to make sure that it's flat, but I don't know if I'll have that luxury with this size of surface mount device. Pin 1 marking, pin 1 marking. So we need to turn it 90. Turn it 90. This is why I'm building the pick and place, because these things are getting small and my hands are not as steady as they used to be. One of the things that I try to stress here on this stream is that you too can do this kind of soldering. It is not impossible for regular people to do. You can see here that I've actually used the solder spool as a wrist rest, and that allows me to relax my arm and just get this tweezer into the right location. The pick and place will of course help me do that much better, but it's, it's what it's. So anyway, coming back over here, I'm sort of propping my pinky down onto the board to stabilize myself, and then moving the iron in to the 1 pin. There is a pin header digging into my pinky. Quite painful. Damn it, my arm twitched. This is why I'm building a pick and place. A manual pick and place, because those random twitches, and I mean this is a very small thing, so we'll build up a module like this when I get the pick and place running, and we shouldn't be too far away from the pick and place. I think I'm able to make it relatively fast in the next like week or two, and then we can build the 1 filter that my synthesizer needs in order to be a synthesizer. I'll have 2 filters on my synthesizer, and I'll be a real boy. I think I should build a pick and place too, because I found a powerful vacuum pump last night. You don't need a powerful vacuum pump. You need just enough. wonder if I could store vacuum in one of those big bottles. That'd be kind of funny. Get one of my blood bottles. All right, so that's now positioned, but I like to put the tweezers on top and heat that up again, just in case it's at a funny angle. Because you can't tell on the microscope. The microscope is literally the same view that you guys have. So I am looking at the top shelf of my desk, which keeps my back straight. So I do not have back problems. I'm sitting up bolt upright. I am sitting up bolt upright. There we go. To look at what I'm doing, and then you guys. So that's that whole center monitor's job. And then I use this camera to show my wrist positions, because that's something I like to stress, is that I do have very steady hands. They have been getting less steady. But positioning and using your pinky as an anchor allows you to do a lot of the fine motor work. The pick and place will allow me to have a wrist rest, and then I can position something into place, and with my wrist down, I can spin the part and lower the part. Is your workbench custom built, or did you buy it? This is from, I think, Global something or other. Global, I don't know, World Star? I forget what the fuck it's called. Global Industrial. It was expensive, even for the time. But it's a butcher block, 30-inch, I think 30 inches, is it 30? I don't know, whatever, standing desk. And then the shelf was not actually meant for this, but it works with this just fine. But it's a top shelf with a metal backing, and it's from a big global industrial supply. You can also just make desks like this if you can find the cabinets and stuff. But I have a 72-inch desk, and then that one's, I forget how long, but then I took 2020 rail, 80/20 rail bracket, and that's in between the two desks, attaching one to the other. So they're both stabilized with each other. The big L, the giant L, keeps the mill stable. Frederick LH, not a first-time chat. You are where, oh bother, here is now. You assemble, you build a material, you look for the cheapest part, you make sure there are only filters to include depreciated components. Yeah. Then, okay, so this is like, like order of operations that you would do if you're ordering parts from DigiKey. One of the really important clicks on DigiKey is to, please filter your parts by what's in stock, what's stocking. That's not like in stocking, as we already talked about drag soldering. And what is not obsolete. So a current use part, DigiKey will warn you about this now, which is really nice, but having parts that are not depreciating and parts that are not, even if you do all that due diligence, I mean, that's like the common thing with DigiKey is, you make sure you can only order a couple of them, make sure that it's a currently stocked part, etc. That's going to narrow down everything so you don't get 564 results on your searches. You still get 564 results on your searches, and some of those parts, like the capacitors that you choose, might not be common. And it's really frustrating when you run into somebody's design who doesn't do that. And so I gotta buy the rare part, like this very specific value capacitor or this very specific value resistor. Getting parts bins that are a variety of parts will give you a better idea of what people are commonly using. You know, the 2N2222 is an extremely obsolete transistor. The 3904 is similar specs, but it's also kind of obsolete. And so then you go into really obscure ones that are like 2N222 replacements, and it's weird, yeah. 12-cent part, $8 shipping, yeah. So yeah, the checking to make sure the components can be bought are within the range of what you need. Then you look at the manufacturer's site to ensure that the components have a status, that they're no longer in production, and that the equivalent replacement list is empty. Bonus if the part can only be found at your local reseller. Yeah, or if it's an antique part that nobody can find anymore. For the longest time, I think it was like, not audio engineering, it was one of the things I built. The person who patented all of these chips that were essentially a modular synthesizer module on a chip, right? It had all the appropriate gates and filters and comparators and whatever, all on a chip, really easy to build around. And so I bought one of these, it's like CEM 3340. Lucky for me, in the past bunch of years, well, okay, so what happened is this person made these chips and they were putting a bunch of designs and everybody was having a great time until somebody's heart decided to stop working and they died. And so the creator of these things died, and his estate, I think essentially his wife, didn't continue their manufacture, and so they became extremely rare. Only recently has that been released, and a couple chip manufacturers have decided to take up making these chips again. So they're available to be found. They're wonderful little analog synthesizer chips. They're really good for like cheap Eurorack stuff. If you want to, have a VCO, you can buy the chip and then just add a couple resistors to it, and you have a VCO. So yeah, definitely look into those if you have a chance. But it's, for a while they were super rare because the chip was no longer carried. So that's a particularly frustrating thing about this stuff, and especially when you're sitting down to design your module, you don't know how popular it's going to get. But it does help to buy kits of parts so that you're a little bit more aware of the common things that are available to your average kit builder, CM3340 was a vintage Roland VCO used in SH101 and Juno. Man, Magic Strings, encyclopedic knowledge. You guys are sharp with that kind of stuff. I remember reading about that, and I don't remember any of the details. What did what? Ugh, stupid parallax. I can't tell what the height of anything is. When I worked for the FBI Technical Center in Virginia on the Marine base, they had this Scorpion 2-eye microscope, and it had in it, I think that's standing up from the board. I need to just push down on it a little bit. It had this spinning lenticular lens inside of it, like a lenticular mirror that spun, and it would give you, it had two like view thingies at the other end. And it basically, anytime you watch like sci-fi and you see like a medical office that's trying to look high tech, they'll have these, they're like inspection microscopes, because you just look into the objective and it's like, was that Spaceman Spiff? That's not what it was. It's like those Bluth animated video games that are all QuickTime events, but they're in like 3D. It looks like that. And you're looking at a three-dimensional, you're basically two eyes looking at your stuff in this objective, and so you don't have to hunch over into objective like lenses and put tubes in your eyes and stuff. And you can wear glasses and headphones and a space helmet if you want. I don't know why you're wearing all this stuff on your head. But anyway, you can look just straight into it and you would get a 3D view of what was going on. It really helps for not stabbing yourself with a hot soldering iron. When I hooked a Raspberry Pi camera up to try to use that as a microscope, the delay, I would move my arm and then it would move on screen. And I tried to use it to solder something and it was just like, and I was like, oh, pain receptors got here before the video image. Like, it was nuts. That's why I came up with this system that I use now, which uses a Logitech C920 webcam inside of a scientific reskin in aluminum that puts a C-mount on it, and then a C-mount adapter to a Nikon lens, just because I had the Nikon lens sitting around, and that gives enough space between the sensor and the Nikon lens, the ever-beloved 18mm lens from Nikon. Everybody hates it. What is it? Macro, it creates a macro camera out of your webcam. So this macro webcam does 60 FPS, 1080p. Pretty cool. How about a giant hat that looks like a banana? Can I wear that? They specifically say not to in the manual, but I think, they're not your dad. So I don't think they can really tell you not to. I think you'll get away with it pretty easily. But maybe if you're having like a tour of the office, you don't want to, you might want to put it down for a little bit. All right, so drag soldering. What I just did was one of the big no-nos of soldering. It's something that my mechanical engineering friends would always do during their labs. They would load up the soldering iron with a bunch of solder and then plop it down onto the pin. That is a no-no. What I showed you guys earlier with the pins is the proper way to do 99%. Everything is all about heating the pad and then adding solder to it. This is not what you should do. I have loaded this thing up with solder. This isn't even a wedge. Sometimes they'll change to like a wedge tip for this, but this will do. So I've loaded a bunch of solder onto this thing, and I've got a bunch of flux sitting down on the pins. And what I'll do is I will just go into that flux and solder. Go into the, oh, my iron turned itself off. I'm taking so much time explaining things that my iron thinks that I'm using it in bed, and I've fallen asleep. Okay, so now it's smoking hot. You just go down the pins, and you totally fuck it all up. Yeah, that's it. That's drag soldering. No, drag soldering, it should pull away from the pins and leave just enough behind due to the surface tension of the flux. So I'm not even going to add more solder. I'm just going to go down this row now. See what that's doing? It's just depositing the right amount. Although I am running into stuff, I'm not being a good solder dad. So the next important part about soldering surface mount electronics is that you inspect your solder joints. It looks like we have bridges on some of these. So I'm going to go over this again. I'm just going to make sure that now that there's a reduced amount of solder in the iron, that I'm heating these up and I'm allowing the solder to flow out and coat everything evenly. Doing a stencil is so luxurious because you get just the right amount of solder. Yeah, see there was a little gremlin hiding in there. I may even want to reduce the amount of solder. And the way I do that is with a little bit of solder braid. Unfortunately, all these expensive tools are meant for surface mount stuff. So when you do surface mount stuff, you end up using all of your expensive solder braids and et cetera, et cetera. But it's why we buy them. That's why we get that stuff. Yeah, there's too much solder there. Okay, so take two. A little bit more flux. And just a tiny little brief application. If I can find where the solder braid went. Oh, it's all the way over there. Maybe because you were going too slow. Yeah, you can go a lot faster, but I'm in it for the visual asthma. Also, this isn't really a proper wedge, so that can cause some issues. But yeah, you can go pretty fast when you drag solder. Why do I feel like none of my heat's getting in? There we go. So that should be clean now. I really want to make sure this is a good joint because chip's really expensive. It's like $16 for this thing. $2. So sometimes it doesn't look like they're soldered at all when they actually do have the appropriate amount. Although I think those are lacking just a little bit in solder. You should Tokyo drift on those pins. I'm trying to show proper techniques here. Don't go crazy. But what this drag soldering justifies an incredible amount of flux. So if you're one of these streamers or just electronics enthusiasts that's just huffing flux 24/7, this is the technique for you. And actually, I shouldn't have used the big solder. I should use my slightly smaller, more controllable solder because I need to add just a little bit. I don't trust the amount of solder on these pins down here. So I'm just going to smash it like that, and then we'll take it across. I've yet to like perfectly do drag soldering the first time. I always fuss with it too much. I think this would be fine. I think it was fine before, but I mean, hot air stations are pretty cheap nowadays, right? All right, I guess I'm a little happier with that. I think those pins are soldered. I've had trouble with this size IC before in terms of it looking like it's soldered, but it's actually not. They kind of look like they were hovering over the pad. I mean, if I get ins and outs that are suspicious, yes, I can do a continuity check. You can get a pin probe. The high voltage pin probes that I have are sharp and small enough that I can get one up here and then one down on the pad and check that continuity. But I'm not going to go through the trouble at the moment. All right, I think all that's left is for us to program the microcontroller and then hook this thing up and see if it works. At first I thought you put the chip on backwards, and then I realized you turned the board around. Yeah, that's what the precision vise is for. I can move this. I can move this as I feel fit to position it in the right way so that the natural positions of my hands follow what I'm doing. It's like welding. You want to be as comfortable as possible. That will come out in the results. This just helps keep everything nice and stable. So if I tilt this in this way, it's because that's where I'm naturally just comfortable holding the iron. And I don't have to bend my body around in order to try to position it properly. Your comfort is paramount to the end product. So the other thing that I did here is I replaced a stack of resistors that I put on some of these. These have very specific values so that they can take a 10-volt signal in, put it through an amplifier, and have it come out at 3 volts, offset by negative 10 volts. It's a weird system. It basically moves the number line around so that the voltage is appropriate for a microcontroller instead of the plus minus 10 volt that these typically would be. And so I replaced those resistor stacks with just bare precision value resistors. I don't think that'll cause any extra problems. I just have to be cognizant of of their existence, I guess. And then the other thing that could cause problems, if these pins aren't soldered, we might not get an output. I'm pretty sure the inputs work, so my input, like transistors and the CV path for the input, I think is okay. Oh yeah, and I replaced some of the power electronics to be the proper stuff. Let me, that resistor looks real bad. I don't want to run hot air on it so that it rights itself in the middle. I feel like I already ran hot air. Why is it so scorched? This came out of a wall wart power supply. Problem is, if I use hot air on this, it could melt my front panel, which is 3D printed. Okay, that'll look better when I clean up the flux, I think. I also tried to find one of these things that fit. I found one that fit for Julian, but this one did not quite fit properly. Still does the same job. It's basically so you plug in the plus minus 12 volt power supply, it goes through the full bridge rectifier so that you can plug this thing in either way. I had to hunt for this thing too. That's a coil. I think it's off by a few Henry, but all it's doing is stabilizing power. Okay, I think all of my improvements are good. I think my soldering leaves a little bit to be desired, but what functions would the PNP, the pick and place, serve for this? Yeah, it's basically, so what the pick and place would do for this, even this job that I'm doing right now, nothing for this. For putting that part in, the pick and place would have held it parallel to the board and allowed me to lower it without relying on my wrist staying in the right spot. If you saw before when I was positioning it, I didn't have my wrist on the solder coil. Instead, I was just holding it like this, and my arm went, ow, that's gonna draw blood. No, it didn't draw blood, but I definitely have little bits of skin missing. Stupid through hole. So when I was moving it like that, I just went, bleh. Like it was just like something that happened to my muscle. Could have been any combination of getting old or diabetes or just general instability. Just the, oh yeah, there's the blood. A stray neutrino just made its way into my neuron and triggered it. So yeah, this is gonna bleed a lot, isn't it? Because it's right on a joint. Let's just hold a little pressure there for a minute. I'm gonna go get alcohol and we're gonna brush my teeth. I'm gonna basically brush the back of this board to make it not look terrible. That's not first, that's like way, that's like 65th blood. I bleed on camera all the time. I put my blood into this stream. I moved a lot of furniture this weekend and my back still hurts. Getting older sucks. It does. I was going to make the neutrino comment. I love the idea of a neutrino going through like entire solar systems and not hitting a single atom, but then it goes right to your butt and makes you fart. Like it just happens to collide with a water molecule in one of your neuron cells and makes a little blue flash, and that makes you go. You're like, oh, what the hell was that? First blood for this project? Maybe. I don't know whether or not I've drawn blood on, this thing is, so modular synthesizers have this unfortunate thing where they absolutely positively need to have through-hole electronics because the Thonky Cons are through-hole and the knobs and stuff are better served as through-hole parts because they're stronger on the board. If you had a bunch of surface mount parts without the front panel, because a lot of the real professional modular synthesizer stuff will move mostly everything over to to surface mount technology because it's cheaper to solder and all that stuff. But there's still a lot of through hole. And so that through hole is sharp. It hurts. It carves into your pinky knuckle when you wave your hands around it. So yeah, unfortunately, it's a bit of a necessary evil with modular synthesizers. Plus, it's actually really warm down here. So by all means, I'm gonna have a bloody finger. All right, let me get alcohol. The only other alcohol that I have is for squirting 3D prints. It's in a little bottle. I'll be right back. Let's do doot and then doot. Such a short BRB that I'm not, I just muted and went over there. Mute so we don't hear him putting alcohol in the wound by accident. Yeah. it's a risk. Hey, at least it'll be disinfected then. Have we stopped bleeding, please? No, not yet. All right. So basically what I'm going to do is just use a toothbrush on this thing and just get it clean. Easy peasy, right? Although I think actually, you know what, instead of using alcohol, I'm going to use goof off on this because it needs, well, no, there's such a volume of flux on this that I think maybe we'll use alcohol first. And then if I still need to clean it a little bit, I will typically, and this is not recommended. This is not recommended by any means. The thing that everybody's so nervous about goof off with is that goof off will damage plastic. This will damage plastic. This stuff is basically orange flavored acetone. So if you leave it on something, it will damage it, but it's hard to leave it on something because it evaporates so quickly. So what I'll do is, hey, what's up, Madam? So I'll use Q-tips, just paper Q-tips, because paper is at least relatively renewable, right? It's a plant fiber. It's not plastic. All the electronic guys seem to think that you need to have those foam plastic tipped Q-tips, and why? It's like so damaging for the environment. Why are we single-use plastics? Why are we using that? So I'll use paper fiber Q-tips, and I'll just very carefully go over everything, and that breaks the flux off like instantly. I think in this case, though, what we can do is brushy with some alcohol, and that'll get a more volume of stuff. But I need to do it at an angle so that we're not dripping alcohol into all the other components here, because it'll pop off my labels and all the coating stuff that I did here. And I'm too lazy to take all that stuff apart. So what we'll do is just brushy at an angle and drip it down into a paper towel. And hopefully that doesn't come into contact with it. That sucked. I should have moved my hand. All right, hold on. I got to do a little contortion work here to get to the paper towels. Kind of telling when you sit at your computer desk, you have a roll of paper towels right above your head. Things get particularly messy, you know? God. The amount of single-use droppers I go through for model paint would make you shed a tear. I use old syringes. Well, not for paint. I have an airbrush, and I've been meaning to use it for some time. I haven't had a chance. All right, that looks a little weird, but I think it's fine. We're not bleeding out anymore. No more additional blood from that. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder. It's not like you can find a paper. You could, cut the end of a Q-tip and, dip. I don't know if that works. It's an Iwata. Which one did I get? It is Japanese. Oh, that's not good. Why is it like that? The needle's okay. Ow! Damn it! Fucking thing bit me! Why is everything injuring me today? That's what I got. A nice little handful of... Remove this. Shoink. PS289. It's a Krios. Krios! All right, now, without poking myself in the hand, actually, do that. Yeah, there we go. Although now my finger's going to slip right at the right time. Why don't you keep that guard on? Mute and apply alcohol again. Don't have any experience with those. This is a very common airbrush. I haven't had a chance to use it at all. I've been meaning to learn how to use it. Watched a couple videos, so I do know what's going on, but that's pretty cool. Good stuff. Anyway, someday I'll have something to paint. In the meantime, all these fittings are what we're really interested in, because these will help me with the pick and place. I don't think I can cannibalize this into a pick and play. I don't think I'm going to do that. But all this stuff, all these fittings here for the airline are important. Don't have any experience with those. Hope it's really nice. I think it will be. I think, by all means, it will be awesome. It's basically the most it's not super cheap entry level, and it's not the $5,000 one for a professional use. It's somewhere on the lower end of the niceness spectrum, but it's one that works well as long as you take care of it. That's what I gathered from the Reddit threads for people who are super experts in airbrushes. So that's kind of the level that I was looking for, is not something that would be a liability because it's so cheap, and not the super duper ultra nice one that costs hundreds of dollars. All right, so I'm just going to clean this into a paper towel, and hopefully we'll get good results out of it. And we're going to use alcohol, not goof off, so that the whole place doesn't smell like dizzy oranges. And alcohol just got on the wound. I felt it. Felt a little coldness to the back of my hand, but it's not burning somehow. Oh, there's the alcohol smell, and it smells a little bit like 3D printer stuff, because the outside of that bottle has bits from me holding it with a glove on, which is going to really irritate me because that stuff is persistently sticky. If you get it on your skin, it feels I can feel it right now on my hand. The Black Widow from Harbor Freight is really nice for the money, especially. Oh, I thought you meant because we used to call the car jack, the included car jack with VW, is just this little metal thing that just kind of opens up like that and hoists your car up. And when you hoist your car up on it, it'll routinely distort in weird ways. So we call that jack the Widowmaker. So when you say the Black Widow from Harbor Freight, I was like, oh, Harbor Freight is its own death-defying car jack? That's what I would expect from them. But no, the product is actually called that. That's fascinating. Brush in the module. I think I am going to end up using goof off on this, because brushing it'll only move so much flux around. I know those. Yeah, they're frightening as all hell. Okay. Let that dry off for a second here while I attempt to get all of the 3D printer garbage off of my hand. That hand looks a little glossy now. I should never use this bottle without gloves. This goes somewhere else. This goes away. I had one of those fall over. I did too. Had jack stands to catch it, but it scared the shit out of me. Bought a giant pneumatic floor jack. Yeah, what I did is when I discovered that I needed to buy a jack, I wasn't messing around. I went directly to Sears and I bought the $300 low profile jack. And I have it to this day. It's more than 10 years later, and it is still the best jack that I've ever used, and it still works amazingly. So I don't mess around when it comes to that kind of stuff. Harbor Freight is interesting because they will have, oh, I need Q-tips. Hold on, Q-tips. I'm gonna make a big smelly mess over here. Harbor Freight is interesting because it used to be, and I don't think this is the case anymore, but if the thing that they're selling had the potential to kill you, then it would be well made. Otherwise, all bets are off. I don't think that's the case anymore, though, because they had some problems with the welds in their jacks. They got in some trouble for it. Had a recall. Yeah, getting a car up and down are the two most nerve-wracking. Why is my pinky shiny? What's going on? Was there a bunch of stuff on the bottle that got onto my hand? Should not be shiny. What the fuck? Their Daytona floor jacks are unironically really good, especially essentially they're knockoff Snap-ons. That's what we used to use, and they would kind of get ruined over the course of shop work, which is always pretty hard on material. But the Craftsman one that I bought, albeit aluminum and expensive, it has been the best jack that I've ever used. So I'm very happy with my purchase of that thing, and I would recommend it to other people looking for like a good floor jack. It is worth every penny. See, I'm afraid that I've just coated this with a bunch of plastic. It gets into your head. It's worse than getting it on your skin because it gets in your head. You kind of smell that nutty epoxy smell. Yeah, one of the worst things when you're working on a car is when you, like for instance, when you're putting it up on 4 stands, lifting one side of the car and then lifting the other side of the car, and your jack stands like shift a little bit. I'm just like, oh, this is the one. I'm dead. But then everything has worked out so far. It's survivorship bias, but it's yeah, that's one of the things I hate about doing that. And apparently, you know, on jack stands, your car is completely stable, assuming you put them in the right spots. One thing that they did with the BMWs of the generation that I work on is that they don't have jack stands. You're too rich to be putting your car on a jack. No. They have lift pads. The thing about the lift pads is that they really don't do a great job if you use them alone. You're supposed to use 4 at a time, and the load is supposed to be distributed over those 4. So if you use the lift pad as a jack pad, because you're a shade tree mechanic and that's, you know, you don't have a lift, it's ridiculous. What happens is all that pressure wears away at the underbody of the car. And when the underbody gets worn away, there's a lot of moisture coming in from the sunroof drain into the inside of the panel. And if your jack point begins to rust because it's exposed, that's a place where the wheels kick up road debris. And all that road debris holds water. And so it creates this big old half cell of garbage that wears away at your car body. And so I've got rust through the panels, the under panels of that car body at the point where the car is supposed to be jacked. Mechanics hate inspecting my car. They hate it. Yeah, there's like garbage on the board. I don't know what's going on here. This is maybe where I need the sonic cleaner. It's like shiny. Yeah, and I've got to fix it at some point. It's eating away at my psyche. Just knowing that my car is in like peril from this one doom. There's a lot of flux on this. I don't know if I could dunk this in an ultrasonic bath. If that wouldn't like destroy everything that I've worked so hard for. Yeah, see all this crap? Look at all that. Like, this is what I was avoiding doing because it's a pain in the butt. This drying process is where I'm picking up most of the stuff. I guess if I had more brushies and more containers for the waste, I could give it more of a bath and it would probably come out on top. Get it off the plastic. Try to stabilize this so it's not moving around so much. Better view of it all. But yeah, if you really do this process a bit, it'll make everything look new. That still has a bunch of stuff in it. Ugh. Everything's gross. This, I don't think I can really get in there. Get in with a little piece of paper towel, I guess. That's not really going to work. Just got to air dry it. It might end up being weird forever. I think there's flux in the alcohol that's still on the board, so it's like nasty. More brushy. Oh, the brushy's all full of shit now. So if I brushy, it's gonna fill this thing with shit. Yeah, it's what happened was when I did the initial brushy basically made alcohol full of flux that coated everything. So now I've got to go over everything again. So I don't know, maybe if I had like a little can to wash the brush out in, this would go a little better. Because if I wash it down with alcohol now, there'll be less debris in it. But I don't know if it'll carry away stuff like that. Like that right there. Needs to be like broken off. Q-tip, paper towel, toothbrush to remove the Q-tip and paper towel fragments. Yeah. Maybe a dry brush afterwards would be the way to go. Brush is all contaminated though. Yeah. It will never be clean. That one still needs something to break that flux off. Soak it in 99 isopropyl? Yeah, something like that. You don't want to... danger with that is getting it in the crystals. Bam! Right in the crystals. Don't want to get it on the front panel because that'll loose my stickers. I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that like some crystals require like an air. They have like an air hole in the back of them, and they can kind of fail when you like spill water on stuff. So I don't know if soaking in alcohol would be. You'd have to look up the particular type of crystal, but it is a danger. Eat the crystals. Smoke the crystals. Hot damn. Okay, how are we doing? This is, I think, as clean as I'm going to get it, and my fingers feel greasy from touching the outside of this bottle. I think that bottle needs to be soaked in alcohol. That's the thing about the Goop 3D printer is that it gets everywhere. It's bad stuff, and it feels weird on your skin. But now I'm in my own head about it. It's like, am I covered in 3D printer ink or epoxy? I don't know. How should my hands feel? I'm now thinking about my hands. Get out of my head, Charles. Sounds like a country song. You don't got to be country to soak things in alcohol. Your sorrows. Okay, sorry, just trying to get back into position here. Yeah. The handprint on the thermal. Oh, was I? We know. Thermally, we know. The thermal cameras are awesome. It's really nice to be able to see, especially when you're doing work with electronics. It's really nice to be able to see where the heat is carrying and how it translates into the thing you're working on. It's really cool. We got this a long time ago, and it's been cool to have. Back when it was really expensive. Now China's caught up on the thermal game. They've managed to figure out how to manufacture thermal imagers for pennies on the dollar. And so now you can get thermal imaging relatively cheaply. So it's a lot more available to your average streamer. I think in part, I think it's 3D printer stuff that I'm feeling, but it's actually just flux that's in the alcohol. All right, that's looking a little bit more clean and professional, and it probably smells like 3D printer garbage. That's actually shiny. That's interesting. Very interesting. I guess if I really want to like super dry it, I could use the hot air gun. Now, I mean, that would be a quick way to evaporate all the alcohol. But now we got to make sure that the module works, and we need to load it up with software. So while that's drying, we're going to load up our Teensy with modern microcrimes and ornamentation brain. Slop. We're gonna load it up with slop. Ah, hands feel weird after that. Anything that has to do with the Goop 3D printer, I think I need to like just sequester and keep it on its own, because every time I use it, I use the parts, like every time I touch that bottle, hands feel weird for a while. I don't know. I think I'm getting exposed to stuff that I shouldn't be. Hopefully my hands aren't like bright red. I mean, it kind of looks like they are just because of the color coordination of the camera. Okay, so, and now I'm smelling, yeah, I'm definitely smelling the, oh, I hate. Let me tell you something about hate. Yeah, these, it's definitely, I definitely smell it on my hands. It sucks. Ugh, worst. And the Goop just does not, it feels greasy. I don't know if I have like clean alcohol that I can wash my hands off in and like really get it off. Yeah. Okay. That bottle's cursed. That's what it is. It's the bottle. That could also be a country song. What are we doing? We are getting Teensy. So I've already got Teensy loaded up into Arduino. So if I start up Arduino, I have sort of the add-on plugin that adds a little program that you can upload your Arduino sketch with, or you can actually upload a separate hex file. And if we're lucky, it's still in here. Although I want to see if any new versions have come out since we did Julian's module. Let's see if anything new has come out. Not for Arduino though. So we're looking at touch the bottle, wash your hands. Yeah. GitHub. I think we want Phaserville. I think that's where yeah, it's Phaserville. Ornament and crime. Firmware releases. Is this Phaserville Suite 2.0? 2 weeks ago. Oh, look at that. That's Teensy 4.1, but we're getting the other one. Massive code refactoring. Can't guarantee full backwards with version 1.x, although I've made a strong effort. On first boot version 2, you'll be prompted to reset the settings in EEPROM. It's just a suggestion. Does not reset calibration, only app data. I'll probably be doing that because I haven't really used this thing before, and we haven't really tuned it either. I keep messing with my hands because they feel weird. Ugh. Yeah, I can definitely smell. I think maybe under my cuticles there's probably some of that stuff. So I need to, when I'm done streaming, I'm gonna get dish soap and really wash my hands and then take a finger brush and go under all of my fingernails and stuff. Oh, I hate the feeling. App menu. Okay, so this is what we want to get. So it's GitHub, so they don't make it easy. Fortunately, after optimizing for TC4, performance on the 3.2 is now terrible, so it won't be supported on 2.0. So I do have to move to 4 for this, so we did the right thing. Okay, so we want Teensy 4.0, and just double check, because the point notation has changed. So for the 4.0, that's this one. That's funny, the Teensy 3.2 was the smaller one, right? So the Teensy 4.0 shares a footprint with the Teensy 4.0. The Teensy 3.0 shares a footprint with the Teensy 4.1, which is the like kick-ass, crazy Raspberry Pi-esque version of it. It's very confusing. So anyway, yeah. The right version is for the 4.0. NLM plus card OC. Don't know what that is, so we're just getting this one. And it's not a parentheses one. Good, good, good. Open that folder, just have that at the ready. And then, tricky, I don't know how to actually open up the programming thing. So, module testing module is for the Teensy. Go to my board, Teensy 4.0, and then if I go to upload, I don't have it plugged in yet, but I'll just hit upload, and then it's gonna pop open another program that's used to flash the Teensy. I don't know where that program is. It's somewhere in the Arduino folder, and I could probably open it up on its own. I haven't bothered to learn how. So what I'll do is I'll just wait for this thing to compile, and then it'll throw up the programming screen and say, hey, there's nothing there. And then I can use that to load the hex and then program this Teensy 4 sitting on my desk. What I did not anticipate is that it would take 9 hours to compile this program. I don't need you to do this. You don't need to compile. It's fine. Just try to program it, please. Please, sir, please. My own hubris, my laziness led me here. This is my fault. I can't blame anybody else. Why must we suffer, Master Wayne? I don't think there's a way that I can open up just the Teensy thing from this menu. No, maybe not. And I'd probably have to dive down and find it in the folder and everything. Oh, there it is. It popped up on the third monitor. That is way far away, bud. Bring this all the way back over. Okay, file. Open hex. Downloads. Phaserville. 2.0. See, that was the beta that we used before. This one's the full version, so open that up. And now, if I connect my Teensy, it probably won't. Yeah, press button on Teensy to manually enter programming mode. So I hit the button. I hit the button again. There it goes. Loading software. Nice to not have to like program stuff yourself. Okay, so rebooted and we are now in the Phaserville suites. So let's get my module tester over here and we can test this module. I'm afraid that the back of this thing is always going to be a little bit greasy, isn't it? Actually, it looks pretty clean right now. I see a little bit of residue. Probably need another suite of cleaning. Maybe I'll just let this sit for long enough that it doesn't get sticky again. Hopefully. Probably will smell like resin for a while. I wonder if I just activate this stuff, do you think it'll reduce it? This is the, I am not asked, like, I'm not. Did this fully, oh no, there it is. I thought this thing would be brighter. I feel like I got a defective one. There should be like a lot of UV coming out of this thing. Are my fingernails heating up? You can't really tell. Just a little bit of ultraviolet between friends, huh? Wow, okay, so there's a UV blocker on that camera lens. Because I definitely flashed myself with this thing. This thing makes you double press power on it because apparently it's so dangerous for your eyesight. But it doesn't really seem like it's all that much UV. I guess that's the insidious part about ultraviolet then. I use UV glue in a lot of stuff, and there's all kinds of applications for something like that. The old one that I used is a little bit more of like just a UV LED on a pen light. That doesn't have any batteries in it. But and then even more rudimentary than that was the old UV activator that they had at the one shop that I worked at, which was literally just an ultraviolet LED at the end of an overly expensive pen. It was like a really big, thick pen. All right, so this is the module tester that I made. It uses I2S and another Teensy 4 in order to create all of these sort of measured voltages and frequencies that I can use to test modules with. See, I don't like, it still looks wet. There's still like stuff on it. Ugh. All right, we'll just use it this way anyway. And hopefully we get Phaserville out of it. Which ones are the metered? These are the metered. I want to make sure that it's going through these so that I can see if there's a runaway current, because that'll indicate something that's wrong with the module. Did that bend a little bit? No. Does that look wet? It's like crap got all the way to the front panel. Made it look greasy. It's like the greasiest crime module. Fluid inside eyeballs boil is bad. I think you overestimate the dangers of ultraviolet light. God, the greasiness that I feel when having touched that bottle full of 3D printer ink. It's not ink, it's whatever. All right, here we go, moment of truth. Calibrate main menu, Phaserville. Setup, reset. Yeah, I'm gonna click OK. Time for a fresh start, it just said. Oh, that's cute. Very, very cute. Microcrimes and ornamentation is a very cute little module. I mean, it's got all kinds of little applications. It's like the WarioWare for your modular synthesizer. There you go. Hold on, did I messed up face cam? No, that's okay. That's good. So, I mean, we've already been over crimes and ornamentation, but this is just, you basically select a side and then you select what application you want. Now, my front panels are a little thick, so these are actually, they're pretty good. They're okay. But there's all kinds of different functions in here, and basically you have a bank of triggers, you have CV inputs, and then you have your audio or CV outputs on the bottom. And you can do whatever you want with them. Now, Julian reversed his entire module, which made things a little weird. I like it in this orientation. It makes more sense to me like this. What in the hell is Ponglet doing? What utility could this possibly have? I'm gonna have to learn all this stuff. Because it's WarioWare, I have no context for any of this crap. I would need to read the GitHub. Low frequency oscillator. So over here we have my module tester, and I put a lot of work into this thing. All the buttons broke off. So that's fun. I think I can still stick a screwdriver in there and change them. Nope. No, I'd have to short it out. Damn. Well, I'll probably have to reinstall buttons on this thing then. But basically, I've just got a bunch of channels. I've got 6 channels here, and they're all running off of these 2-channel I2S things. Eventually, what I'd like to do is hook a mux up to this so that I can have reference voltage levels. So I can give a reference voltage level to an input, measure that, and then have this thing output that reference voltage level or frequency or whatever, and then have that tune itself. Just came in to say hi. Hello. Dinosaurus, blah, 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 blah. I couldn't parse out that screen name before it went away forever. No, it's actually just right here in this window. Dinosuru Wikramashinghi. I don't know what I'm saying when I say that, but hi. This is why I can't moderate the channel in other languages. I don't speak them. This thing's gotten a little too dusty. Oh, I just poked it really hard. I spent a lot of time tuning the filters on these, but I think what I'd like to do in the future is be able to have this thing tune itself so that it's always like clinical at all the right voltages. And I have a front panel for this. I need to transfer it over, and I think what I want to do is wire wrap everything. Because if I wire wrap everything, I can have this big bird's nest of wires inside of the thing, and it'll function just fine. It's fine, you don't have to. You don't tell me what to do. Spends the next half hour trying to parse up an anyway, so this does a whole bunch of crazy stuff. This tester will output frequencies as well as voltage levels or pulses and stuff like that. So we can get all the testing done on the module that we want to get done. So we've got 2 halves here. So this is channels 3 and 4. This is channels 1 and 2. So this one controls this stuff. This one controls this stuff. So right now, what I want to do, well, okay, so there's scope. And so if I were to take a 65.4 hertz sine wave and put that into a CV scope, we get a sine wave, although it's hard to tell what that sine wave should be. It's more for like an LFO. But here we have a low signal. Whoa, that's what's going on there. That's a little weird. That might be noise. It really shouldn't be going doot, 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 doot. It should be going low to high, then high to low at a slow rate. That actually might be an error with the I2S. The construct, yeah, see. There it is. So that's what it should look like. Oh, what the hell's going on there? Something's funky about this thing. Here's a triangle. So that output's doing fine. Can we do this one? Or that input, rather. I don't know if it's enabled. It may not be. Why does that say crime? Because we're doing crimes. No, the module is called ornamentation and crime. And this is the micro ornamentation and crime. So this is a slightly smaller version of the crimes module. That was doing something. That leads me to believe that the triangle is in fact coming in. Yeah, and we're only sensitive to certain voltages on it. Squanch. Squanch. There's also there's a test mode that I can get to. Oh no, holding it down. Oh yeah, there we go. No idea. No idea. Don't know. Maybe I can exit this. No? Hold this one down? I'm just trying stuff right now. I should read how to do this, but here I am. This one? No. This one? Nope. This one. Come on. No? This one. No. This one? No. This one? No. This one. This and this? Ah! Yeah, hemispheres is what I typically use to test these. I don't have a scope to put on this right now to test the outputs. So let's get the scope fired up. So let's start up my actual oscilloscope. Ready for this? This is the blisteringly fast boot up time of the Rigol DHO914. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. Here we go. Super fast. Oh yeah. Look at this thing. Yeah. The ultimate in boot up time technology. It's still booting. Just gotta, it's just gonna warm up. It'll be fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's just gotta, we gotta just get in there and just, we gotta just, boot up and these things take time. Okay, there we go. It takes almost a full minute for that thing to boot up. It's ridiculous. So, hook you up, and then we need to go to a hemisphere that outputs. So the output here, let's do this. Let's come back in here. Come back in here. Refocus the camera. I just lost the house. I bet on Kalshi it would boot up in under 20 seconds. No! My mortgage! There's that. And then scope. No? Scope? Oh, that was it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so. Past midnight, yeah. I actually got to bed at around 2 o'clock in the morning last night. It was unprecedented. I do not feel like I rested. All right, we see some activity going on here. I'm looking for the LFO that has 2 LFOs on it. Oh, I should unplug this. That's going to be triggering stuff that it shouldn't. This is just to make sure that our outputs work, that everything is soldered correctly. Who the hell is that LFO? Weird. This is going to be very useful. A quantizer. Quantizer basically means that if you have a signal that's coming in like this, it will turn it into musical notes through quantization. And the funny thing is, nobody says quantize in science and engineering. I mean, maybe they do, but in the stuff that I typically look at, if you're building stuff, nobody says quantization. You don't quantize frequencies. You don't do that. You do that in music when you have something that you need to turn into musical notes that sound pleasing together. But it ended up squanchy. Yeah, exactly. It ended up in a what should have been guy who builds things building things, and he said, I just need to quantize this frequency. I'm like, nah, I caught you. You're a songwriter. All right, there we go. And according to the Reddit thread that Julian looked up, this is okay. It's supposed to be like this. It does not. It's not actually able, or it's not programmed to get to those voltages, which is kind of annoying that it's displaying it so readily on the front panel. But so that's that one. That one's working. This one again. And there we are in the positives. So everything works. We've got a fully working squanchinator. Our placement of the digital readout, or sorry, not the, what am I talking about? Our placement of the DAC digital to analog chip, was good, and all the pins work. And our Raspberry Pi 4 is bleeding away, BLEAT, what a goat does. So this can go back in the rack, and I think I'm all good. The only thing that I haven't done is tune it to have exactly the right frequencies for everything, but I don't know how much I'm really going to need to do that. Cool, good stuff. And then I'll need to actually figure out what the hell this stuff is. What is this? What is that? What does that do? What is this? What is that? What is that? What is that? What is this? What is that? What is this? What is this? What is that? What is that? What is this? What is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? Does the other module pair with it? This one? No. This is my own doohickey. What I'm gonna have to do is build this up. And hold on, let me go get it. I've got it in the other room. Let me just go get the. I'll keep you guys up here like this. See, this is what I should have had when I went to go poop, was a something where you can see all the different stuff that's going on all at once. It's good to have motion on your screens. So the thing about ornaments and crime, if you have a couple ornaments and crimes, you've got, at least in the Phaserville suite, you've got all of these individual modules. So you could basically have two completely different modules outputting from this thing. It's just, these are just digital and running off of one single Arduino. I am tempted to get rid of all the digital stuff on my synth. Hold on one sec, I'll be right back. My hand feels weird and I hate it. What about David Duchovny? Oh, Mulder? If you haven't heard Fox Mulder's actor asking what are frogs on Jeopardy, I never recommend you go watch it. I should. Isn't there like a supercut of them like asking questions or something? Blow off that thing is covered in dust. This was something that we modeled in Fusion 360, and this is going to become the module tester module. So I have controls for all of my the front panel's falling off. I need to reprint this so that I can skin it like this. But this, I want to become the module tester module. So I'll have an LED that shows me the output. I have a vacuum fluorescent display in this thing, the AB encoder with a push-in button, and then 6 buttons for each channel. And then each of these will be I or O depending on what I want it to do. So I want them all to have the capabilities of inputting or outputting. And then I also want them to self-tune to the different voltage levels that are present, so that I can do things like tune frequencies and voltages and display all that kind of stuff on this. It'd be nice. Oh yeah, from Ripley's Believe It or Not, John Frakes just asking all these questions. There was another one, is a supercut of Frakes doing the Riker maneuver, which is where he hoists his leg over a chair because he's a super tall freak and can't sit in a chair like a normal person. I always love dissecting those Star Trek, like the blocking and stuff that they have, where somebody, in order to look like everybody's dynamic in the scene, they'll have everyone in a different sitting position. So everybody's not just sitting the same way around like a console. They'll instead have somebody hoist their leg up on something. like it's a cowboy show or something. What are you doing? Will this do something if I hit it with pulse? That is triggering something. Let's see if we also give it an LFO. We'll give it a triangle wave. Actually, we can give it its own triangle. We can give it this triangle wave. And then there's something going on. So we're phasing front to back, what is my trigger doing to this? Doesn't appear to be doing anything. What if I trigger into channel 2? Still nothing. I mean, if I trigger into this, I think it... Yeah, it doesn't do anything. But if I trigger into this, it speeds it up and slows it down. So what if I hit it with my own triangle at a different rate into this CD? Nothing. How about you? Whoa. That could actually sound pretty cool. What he likes is not important. We all know that song. We all watch Tiny Toons, right? That got me big into They Might Be Giants, and I listened to them for a long time. I don't know if that would particularly sound like anything, but it sure could control something fascinating, and you're able to implement that with just 2 different triangle waves. And say I don't have one. What if I just hit it with a sine wave? Oh, that's at an audio frequency. Well, I'm sure that sounds pretty cool. I don't know if that one works. That just does 2 speeds. I hate that I have to do this in order to stabilize it. That's why I'm kind of annoyed with this thing. This thing is not as rock solid as it needs to be, which is why I kind of want to work on this and get like a breadboard sitting behind this. I tried to start to build it up, but I don't think I like this method. I think I need to pull this apart and have this just be the outputs and have headers on it that I can wire wrap to, because that way you can see what's connected where and be a little bit more readily available. Is that a... Did they put a whole teensy in there? No, that's just these guys. So I think I can desolder most of this stuff and then figure it out using a different method of building. Yeah, I'll have to worry. Smith Clay! Ahoy hoy bother. How's it going? That's ahoy ahoy, not ahoy hoy. Ahoy hoy. Yeah, I tried to install electronics in this and it didn't go very well. So I think this is just to light up the LEDs, but I think what I'll do is get rid of all this and then I'll just have like a couple of the DuPont connectors or even just a couple headers on this. And then I'll wire wrap to those headers and that'll be the sort of the connection between the different pieces of it. And then behind this, I can have a huge breadboard, something that's like the whole size of this thing, because this can be thick. I mean, I could have a whole thing here. And then the big breadboard, sort of like this, would have modules double-sided taped to them and have the pins sticking up out of them so that I can then wire wrap to that, to where the various locations are. I think that's a better way to do it. Something like this, where I've got so many different like modules. I'll have to make something for muxes, because the muxes are what's going to, you know, flip the switches between all this stuff. Then there's a lot of programming to do for it. But anyway, this is pretty fun. I mean, cool stuff. I will have to learn how ornamentation and crime works. It's, I think, a little too... we've only got, like, I could stream for another couple hours and then we could get into building this thing, but this is going to be a lot of parts gathering on my part. So maybe we don't get to this today. We just finish up ornamentation and crime, which is now covered in nasty 3D printer plastic and behind it. But this now works and this can now go into my synthesizer. And so I've run out of excuses for not learning how my synthesizer works. So that's fun. The new board looks like a good candidate for pick and place. That's the other thing that we need to work on. And maybe I need to buy another one of those airbrush kits, those airbrush thingies. The thing is, like, I still don't know what we're going to be. Well, let me show you the real candidate for pick and place. The real thing that I want to do with the pick and place is over here. Let's take a look. Oh, that's what I wanted to show. Gonad. Gonad's like gone. He died. He left. I don't think he's still here. But this thing, I got this new module, this new filter. Yeah, rest in peace. Ain't she a beaut? So it's a 3-tom modular synthesizer Steve's MS22 dual voltage controlled filter. So I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of this thing. And this thing is made in the way that all the board houses want you to tell them that you've got 4 designs on one board. Because you do stuff like this, and then apparently it's cheaper to manufacture multiple different boards, and it's easier to keep track of them. But this is a whole lot of very annoyingly sized electronics. It's going to be a very cool build. I'm going to have to figure out what parts I still need, though. But this is a really good candidate for a pick and place. I'm going to need to actually order all these, what do you call it? Headers. These headers are like weirdly sized. But yeah, I think this would be a great one for pick and place because there's not a ton. There's only test points really on it. Oh, they put there. This is really cute. I love this. I love this board and the design and everything because it's a little different from everything else. They've got slightly different footprints and symbols for stuff, but it looks like it's properly built, but then they also include stuff like their fedora wearing silhouettes on the back panel. And then of course the artwork is, 2 engineers from the 80s, 70s looking at the PCB that you just bought. I guess they know their clientele. They knew who's going to be buying their board. And the website is equally, funny about all this stuff. Here's the front panel. I don't know if I'll reskin this or not. I mean, this is good enough that I don't think I'm going to feel like reskinning this. Yeah, they're in bags. It's like a bag you'd buy candy in or drugs or something. Not drugs. Drugs are normal plastic bags. These are like, you get these at like a supermarket with like a pastry inside of them. Although it does have a packaging from responsible sources made of paper. Oh, so this is actually a recyclable bag. I love it. This is silk screened and it's using the solder mask, but it still looks hand drawn. And they're utilizing that silk screen. They're utilizing the copper layer with the solder mask in order to make silver objects on it. It's very good. I love this. I think I am going to be looking for more 3-tom modular kits. Not kits, just boards. Just straight up boards. That was a 1 channel. Is there another output? It said it was multiple. Frequency spread, resonance gain. Something there. 3-tom control. Frequency controlled voltage? FCV or something? I don't know. And there's just in and out on it. I see. So that will not create stereo, but clouds, I think, does create stereo. Yeah, but this is like the perfect board for pick and place because I can put a whole bunch of little stuff on it, and then we can put it on the hot plate, and we can watch it solder over, and then the clips can somehow find their way to Reddit, where people will look at it and go, wow, that's really cool. And then they'll all come over to my channel and we'll finally be popular and cool. But also people might recognize the 3-toms board because apparently Dave already has one of these. But yeah, that'll be cool. So that's what I want to do with the pick and place. That's why I'm working on the pick and place in the first place. To pick and place. Still waiting on the motors for the Siren. We will get that together. That will be working eventually. And it'll probably be the most annoying thing that I've ever used in my entire life, but I think that'll be fun. Yeah, that's broken. Put that back to the... It was more fascinating when I would do this. That's a neat wave. All right, so thank you, raiders. Thank you, subbers. Thank you, followers, and all that stuff. I really appreciate all you guys doing this stuff. I know it's not a long stream today. We'll do a long stream soon. Thursday, depending on what comes in the mail. That's really what's in the pipeline, is whatever comes in the mail I want to work on. I don't know if I still need to clean off crimes and ornamentation more, because I can still feel that crap on my hands. I'm going to go double, triple wash my hands. And yes, that's the thing that I'm working on most of all, getting to sleep on time, because I have a headache. I'm cloudy right now. It's not good. And that's all just because my sleep schedule is just messed up. So I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix that. We have so much to work on. We have so many different things to do. I'm trying to get through it, man. And Burn the Subs is always on my back. It's literally and figuratively on my back. So here is, oh, I didn't do this yet. Hold on, I need to set up the command. You need to set up the command. Always do the command. That short stream was just getting stuff done, like that I've been meaning to do for a long time. Getting crimes and ornamentation back online. We'll start to build up that module. Another, oh, I just set the command to be the same command. I didn't change a thing. Oh, when is, yeah, Deltarune is out tomorrow, by the way. It's going to be the day after Deltarune. I'm not going to get stuck playing Deltarune. I have been following the story so far, but I've been just watching Joel play it. That's what I've been doing. And apparently that's the one of the better experiences with the game, is just watching Joel play it. I do own the game and I have played through it a little bit, but I was being a little bit too exacting about getting 100% of everything, and it's not how you're supposed to do it. So I am simply just going to spoil it for myself, just so that I know what the spoilers look like. So if any of you spoil it, you get banned. This is life as a creator, is this thing where you have to just, you know, I'm at one with the fact that I will always be spoiled for everything. Any surprises in media, I'm spoiled with. But if you think about it, the more you think about it, spoilers don't matter. It's what becomes of that spoiler, or what leads to that spoiler, that is fascinating. Ultimately more interesting than just knowing the thing. You know, it's not just about downforce over the rear wheels. So I'm eventually gonna get up to speed with that, but I won't fall over myself to play the game. It is kind of crazy that it's coming out tomorrow. That'll be cool. Tomorrow's gonna be fun. All right, I will catch you guys in Discord. Here is the end card. It just basically has my stuff. My blue sky is dead. I don't know how I'm ever gonna get that back. So it's essentially just the link to Discord. That's my only social media. I've managed to just ignore all of the other stuff. So catch me in there. We're always kind of shooting the breeze in there. So I will catch you guys later. I'll see you on other Twitch channels sometimes, and we'll be back on Thursday, and hopefully some stuff comes in the mail so that we can actually like move forward with some of these projects. I keep starting stuff and not finishing it. I will fix that. That's the other project, is finishing instead of starting. It's impossible. It's impossible. Projects are just fractal. They're just fractal. They never